All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome, Rabid here, and I got some parts in. As we can see here, we got some RAM, a couple motherboards, some power supplies, a CPU, a box full of coolers, as you can see here, quite a few of them. So they were on sale, so I ended up buying them all. So what I plan on doing here is setting up a new CPU mining rig. This is a Ryzen 9. Let's see if this focuses. Come on, there we go. Ryzen 9 7950x3d, and I want to put it on this Asrock motherboard. Let's kind of move this stuff out of the way so we can see what we're dealing with here. So this is the B650m Pro RS Wi-Fi. So this was actually cheaper than the usual ones I get, these Gigabyte B650M DS3H. These are my favorites so far, but I haven't tried anything else really, so it's kind of hard to have a favorite when you've only tried one. But these have been pretty much dominant, and I had zero issues with them. So I am kind of up in the air on trying something else, but this was cheaper, so I ordered it, and I'm going to try it out. So I don't think we're actually going to do a build video here. I'm just going to slap it together, and then I want to see what the BIOS and everything looks like inside of this Asrock motherboard and see if we can get this 7950X tweaked up and ready to roll. All right, so the motherboard's not too bad. It is actually lighter than the Gigabytes I usually use, but one thing I noticed right off the get-go here is there's no heatsink on the VRMs there, so we could have some motherboard overheating issues. So what we're going to have to do is, once I am testing this, if the CPU temperature does seem fine and we're having reboots, we are going to be having to find out a way to cool them VRMs, or I'll just throw this thing in the garbage, run it over with a tank, and use a different motherboard. We'll see what happens when the time comes. All right, so I do have this mounted up on the stands. As you can see here, these are those TrueFab stands, which you can actually put two rigs back to back and then keep stacking them up and away. You can get these, link in the description to the TrueFab Etsy store. Now, he used to sell the STL files. People started ripping them off and starting their own stores and saying they were theirs, so you can only buy the stands now. So if you don't like the fact that you cannot print them yourself, I'm apologize, but, you know, blame the people that tried stealing the idea. All right, guys, so I got this laying down flat so we can put in the CPU there. And upon looking at Newegg QC, as we know, they are great at it, I see a couple bent pins. Now, it is really hard to see on the actual camera here, but I did take a picture, and as you can see right there, we have a couple pins that aren't looking too hot. So I did end up bending the pins back, and it looks like we got some lights. Okay, so it does look like it did boot up. I was in the BIOS for a little bit and just adjusted some quick settings here to see how it does. Coming over into the old PC Ordealio here, it is looking like we are seeing some hash rate now. If I could just find out where it is. Oh, there we go. So we're sitting in at about 19.8 kilohash. So far it does seem to be working. Hive OS was down for like the past 4 hours, so it is getting really late now. But the main thing here, I do want to see how well this motherboard does do over time, so we will update this video. But I want to look at the BIOS and see exactly how it goes. Also, one more thing I want to point out is the M2 drive. Right here, you can see the M2 is installed there. Now, there was a little heatsink here, but I cannot put it back in because the holes line up to screw it in right here and right where you screw in your M2 drive. So you can't put the heatsink back in over top to kind of cover that up like you can with a lot of the, or I don't even know if it's a lot of the other motherboards, but at least with the Gigabyte boards, it should have the screw hole somewhere over here so you can still go over top. So that is another flaw that I'm finding in this board. All right, so here we are inside of the BIOS. I'm still trying to actually figure out where everything is. So anyone that's familiar with Asrock motherboards, let me know down in the comments section for some of the locations. One of the locations I am unaware of already is where LLC is. It might be named something else. That's your load line calibration, where you could adjust your voltage. Now, some other, I've been doing some Google research on it, and they say it may be in all individual settings, not like we see with the Gigabyte board, where it automatically chooses your curves and stuff for you. But regardless, here are the settings I got to so far on this thing. So I did adjust my DRAM frequency. Unlike just enabling XMP profile, you can actually select the frequency that you want to use manually, and then coming down you can actually change your profile configuration right here to the different XMP or Expo profiles and so on. So I also adjusted that. I'm not even sure if you really need to or not, but I also don't see, like I did see in the Gigabyte gigabyte board where you would set your possible high bandwidth mode or low latency mode. So maybe you have to do manually tweaking for that in this one. Again, more investigation I still have to do. Now, as for actually setting up this CPU here, we went into advanced here and we went into AMD overclocking. So once your RAM is set here, we go into AMD overclocking. Yes, we're going to accept this. I'm going to scroll all the way down to wherever the heck it is, Precision Boost Overdrive right here. And then I'm going to go down to the Curve Optimizer. And this is where I did set a -30 core. So this is running at -30 right now. So I'm going to actually try -35 and see if this works. And obviously if it does work for, 10-15 minutes, I'm going to go to 40 and see if that works. But for the most part, 7950x3ds, most of them are around the 25 to 30. I did get one, if you set your LLC correctly, I did get it down to -40, but I only got that to work on one rig. It must have good silicon. And what this does is it actually increases your clock speed and reduces power at the same time. So you really want good silicon here, which we can't predict what we're going to get, but the higher the number you have here on this negative offset is the better for hash rates and efficiencies and so on. So I'm going to try -35 now. So I'm just going to get out of there and make sure it did take. So it is at 35. And then there's some other parameters here, like obviously setting up your, whatever it's called, your CPU reboot time. So turn power on after AC. That way you don't need a power button anymore. Now I can't remember what that was either. Everything is in totally weird locations compared to other previous motherboards that I have used, including MSI and stuff. So Asrock, I don't know what you got going on here, but you know what? It doesn't matter. As long as the motherboard works, it works. But we are going to have to wait for it to warm up outside here. Summertime is coming right around the corner. So we're going to see if this thing's going to start to overheat on the VRMs there. But where is that freaking setting? Ah, here it is. It's ACPI configuration. So you open up that and you can see restore on AC power loss, power on. This eliminates the need to use a power button. That way, if your power goes out or you shut your rig off and then quickly power it back on again, it will automatically turn on instead of needing that power switch. Pretty much standard for any mining rig, CPUs or GPUs. And another setting for the 7950X3D you're going to want to adjust here is AMD CBS. You come into here, and this is actually, it's not that one. It must be PBS here. Nope, it's not that one either. Yeah, it's this one. So we're going to scroll down. Oh, yeah, here it is. So we go into there and we go SMU common options, and you are going to want to enable that eco mode. That way it does run a lot more efficient. Once we're done with all our settings, we simply hit F10, save that up, and we're off to the races. Okay, so we're at about 19.8 kilohash before at that -30 curve. Remember, I did mention that actually increases your clock speed and reduces your power. Funny how that works, but it does. But now you can see at -35 of a negative curve here, we're at 20.2 kilohash. So I'm going to let it run for a little while here and then see if it does go down or not. If it doesn't, I'm going to try -40, and then we should see more hash rate and stuff. But then again, we might just have a super lucky silicon lottery CPU again, if that's the case. Or maybe this motherboard is actually pretty good. We'll have to wait and see what happens here, but this is pretty much how you do some fine tuning from this point forward. See if it goes down or not. But thank you very much for checking out this video. Thank you very much to Newegg for sending some bent pins over. I did kind of bend those over a little bit again, as I mentioned earlier, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't see any issues are happening there. All my RAM channels seem to be working. There is 2 sticks of RAM in there. They're at 6,000 megahertz. So it doesn't look like nothing is broken at this point in time, but you never know. If I move on to something else, I do have to keep in mind that there was 2 pens bent that I kind of bent over, and hopefully I fixed it. But, I may see some type of issues in the future here. But thank you for checking out this video. I will see you on the next one. Rabid out.